Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. Our guest today, returning for the third time, is Miss Alex de Campi, who has a Kickstarter coming up. Is this your first Kickstarter, Alex? I
Gosh,
don't feel
it's
like I've seen
my
any.
I've
No,
let's
definitely
see.
not first.
First was
Okay.
Smoke Ashes.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Second
Way back.
was the Cased Semi-Automagic,
Mm.
Okay.
another Dark Horse book. Uh where we did like an extra book beyond the trade that Dark Horse released and like 10
Right.
Hanukkah covers because we could. Um Third was there was Maddie and True War Stories, which Z2 ran for me. I ran
Okay.
Smoke Ashes and Semi-Auto Magic myself to the point where I like had the books delivered and like stuck them in the envelopes myself and like
Wow.
card truck stuff and stuff. Um, and then Z2 ran Maddie and True War Stories.
Right.
Not well. I could have done a better job had I been putting it in the envelopes myself. Um,
I got my copy of True War Stories, so it did come.
Good, good.
Now I'm remembering that you had another Kickstarter.
Yes. So this would be my fifth Kickstarter that I've been
I mean,
involved.
I have all of the books that you mentioned. I just bought them in stores rather than on Kickstarter, so I
That's
missed
fine.
them
That's fine.
Hmm.
Um,
during funding stage.
yeah. And then Maddie and True War Stories, because Z2 kind of had a big management change and also never had the books on digital. Um, uh, we reprinted them last year
Right.
through Image. I kind of, checked over all the lettering, like tweaked some stuff. Got a new cover from Paolo Rivera for Maddie, which is really lovely.
Yeah.
Did a really cool spine design with a bit of Annie Wu's art on it. Was very happy with it. I think it's the Maddie Dark Horse. Sorry, the Image version of both of the books are the best versions. Um,
Good to know.
and
Sure. Make me go buy new copies.
and they are now on digital, which means if prefer to read digitally, you're able to do that with these books finally.
Sure.
Um,
Make me buy them twice.
and they came out about a month after Reversal came out last
Yeah.
year. So I had a
Yeah.
bunch of books out. Two of them were reprints. One of them kind of slipped under the marketing radar, but
Yeah.
um,
Well, I do remember the two reprints because we were quite happy when we saw them in solicits and talked about them quite a bit, and reversal came up every time we talked about them. So
oh, good.
so you got love on 22 panels.
There you go.
Um,
That's wonderful.
for our eight, nine, maybe a dozen listeners, something like
You
that.
know,
Hi,
Yeah,
Mom. Hi, Adam. Hi,
the people who
Britt.
needed to know. They heard about it a few times.
there you
Hey,
go.
my mom works in a library. She might have gotten
Oh
it then.
yeah,
If
that
she
Yeah.
reminds
has
me.
it, Mom, the book is Reversal by Alex de Campi and Skylar Partridge. Perfect for the library.
Oh,
Alex, why don't you give us the front counter pitch for Reversal?
Sure. We always say the tagline for Reversal is inside every hero is a 12-year-old girl.
yeah.
And
That's
the
funny.
idea is that suddenly the ley lines reverse, magic becomes a thing again. Nobody is prepared for it at all, and people cope very badly. To the point where because no one understands it. Not even like the like Wicca people or your weird goth ex-girlfriend or something like that. Nobody gets it. And the other thing is that magical monsters come back. So you have a small city where a forest turns deadly and monsters keep coming out of it and attacking the city. And people are still living in the city because like where else are you going to go? Like you can't like the government isn't going to let everyone just like flee the city. Um, and Coping as people do in times of uh, distress and attack and like you just keep living through it because that's kind of all you can do. Keep breathing, keep moving. And The story centers on one family, the mom, Robin, who's a scientist, who's the one who figured out about the ley line reversal, and everyone's kind of waiting for her to figure out more about it, and they haven't like how to fix it, and what to do about magic. So she's very famous for having figured things out, but also people are annoyed that more hasn't been done. But science moves at the pace science moves. You can't rush it. Um, She has a daughter, Tracy, who's got a uh, chronic pain, and which means she has a lot of fatigue. So I wanted to have a teen girl hero, like sort of a middle grade slash early teen hero, Trace 12, who wasn't the kind of like kicking, fighting, skinny, like go get him sword wielding child. And that wasn't an orphan, like that had a family environment around her. Because it's very easy if the hero is an orphan. It's very difficult if their actions have to consider their parents' approval, the potential impact on their siblings, et cetera, et cetera. And she has two older brothers. She has Omar, who's about 18, and she has Anthony, who's about like 15, 16. And together they, well, Trey discovers a magical item, going to report it to her mom, as you're supposed to do. And then during a monster attack, kind of everything goes sideways. And then their family kind of ends up being the one who has to figure out what's going on with the forest and stop the monsters and try to understand the overall situation in the midst of a lot of anger and pain in the city from people who are being hurt by the monsters and who've lost relatives and friends and homes, and fear about magic, and of course, demagoguery and politicians using that fear and anger for their own self-elevation.
Right.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me a lot of, I reread it yesterday, and what really stood out to me was like the secondary and tertiary storylines, the way the world was built out. I mean, you brought up the politician, but I also love the family that they took in for a night that we then see a couple of times later and realize, oh wow, because
There's a lot more going on there than you think. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, because
I
what
feel like
They
really
kept
struck
growing
me,
side characters, like the old lady with the cabbage, she
right,
keeps
that's
going back.
fantastic. Oh yeah.
that wasn't around Liz Truss at all, was it?
No, no, no.
No,
Um,
but weirdly, the politician this reread looked creepily like Gavin Newsom, like only more wrinkly. So that was a little prescient.
yeah,
Um, yeah, not sure the degree to which intentional, but I also agree that the side characters, the world, the fact that you have a like a little bit complicated premise that gets established super quickly and strongly in a way that that keeps events moving forward. Like I feel like fantasy as a genre can get bogged down in world building and setup, and you just picked up and ran with it. As well as the family dynamic was
yeah.
marvelous.
Yeah, I remember when we took it out as a YA middle grade book, people were like, "You have to write less about the mom," and I'm like, "As a mom, I actually object to that." I want to write
Yeah,
about what Robin was going through.
absolutely.
Getting
Yeah.
home from a full day of work and being like, "Oh God, I guess we're getting takeout again."
Hmm.
And genuinely caring for her kids, and but also seeing like how much of how tired she would get, and how much stress she was kind of holding in while trying to like keep everything together and make sure that everything seemed fine to the family. Um, yeah,
And especially her she's the pivotal character in terms of understanding the magic that's going on because it's her kids that are experiencing it and
yes,
embracing it, and
yes, yeah,
that yeah, the scene with Anthony was probably one of my favorites, like in like a good happy tearful
yeah,
moment,
yeah, yeah.
um
There's
yeah.
there's a lot of metaphor going on in that book, and a lot of you can take similarly, and like I mean it's not as good as Witch Hat Atelier. I don't know if you've read Witch Hat Atelier. It's a manga. It's amazing.
It's on my list.
I've read the first volume and need to read more.
Where the magic is essentially a metaphor for creativity,
Mm.
Right.
because you're literally drawing things, which is wonderful. And that's another book with a sort of a complicated premise and a wonderful world that just keeps going and going.
Mhm.
And anime soon too. I just
Oh,
saw a
nice.
trailer for it. But yeah, they always say there are two sorts of fantasy authors. There are world builders and there are character authors, and the world builders will build a world and then they let that dictate what's going on with characters. and then the character authors write characters, and then kind of like the world happens around them. And I'm
Hmm.
very much a character author.
Hmm.
So I'm able to kind of like just get moving with it very quickly. I'd like to take, I'd like to work at a different pace. I'd like to, do a manga style. Like we're just going to spend like a whole first chapter just like with not much happening in the world and just like looking at
Hmm.
the birds on the wires, and how the
Hmm.
flowers grow, and it's raining now, and like and I'm walking home and I'm kind of sad about it. Like why am I sad?
Hmm.
Um but unfortunately, I pay my art like I pay my artist by the page, and audiences have very short attention spans, so we gotta get it moving. Artists almost have very short attention spans too, many of them. But yeah,
But
like that's the same thing with the Dan Dare project that launches on March 9th, where
Okay.
like we're taking a classic British sci-fi character from the 50s and 60s, and kind of starting over again with it. So you don't have to know anything about Dan Dare. Like you don't have to go back and read the Frank Hampson book, stories from the old Eagle comics. You should, because they're really good, but you don't have to, and you don't have to know anything about him other than he's like this British sci-fi hero. And making it so that like the story and the characters are still true to his vision, but also appeal to a new generation and appeal to people who've like never heard of him, and who could just chapter one bro it. Like you pick it up and the script tells you exactly what you need to know to enjoy the story. That's all. And it pretty much jumps straight into an adventure. And there's stuff you can see if you look carefully in the background that is the world building, but we don't have a
Mhm.
lot of time to do exposition about it or whatever. Because I also just wrote it as like a essentially a, not an action film, like just a like straight down the line, like balls to the wall action comic. And so the faster you can get going with those, the more you like, the more you have the audience with you.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
how did that project come about? I love how many different genres, characters, places you pop up,
I'm
I
like
don't
the
know
anti
many
Ed
people.
Brubaker. Like Ed Brubaker is like just so amazing at one and but just like
Right,
likes to do one thing. And
right.
I'm like, what if I do like I've just done that thing. I don't want to do that thing again for a
I
little.
mean, are there any other people who have written for both My Little Pony and Heavy Metal?
Probably. Maybe. I don't
Probably.
know.
I mean, I guess Tony Fleeks did My Little Pony, so maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know if he's done Heavy Metal yet.
It's
Yeah.
I
well,
don't know my pony well
I don't
enough.
know if heavy metal's like I don't know if the new heavy metal wasn't paying for a little bit. And I know they have
Yeah,
new management, and I hope they're treating their people well and sending their
sounds
directors
like
back.
it.
Good, good.
Sounds like it.
Um, because yeah, but there's enough of that in comics already not to add
Yeah.
more.
mhm.
Um, Project came about because I was reading old I moved house, and I was unpacking all my books and going through them and going, why did I pack these? I need to actually go through these books. I don't need to keep all of them, do I? And it's an old house and it doesn't have any bookshelves. So when you move into an 1850s house, there's just nothing, like there's no place to put things unless someone's gone and like renovated it. Because they had furniture for that. They had bookcases and they had like armoires for their
Mm.
clothing, and they just had less clothing. So I got there with all my boxes and all the boxes out of my mom's storage unit and was like, well, um, and so I was sitting upstairs on the third floor, like getting boxes out of a box. And I was like, oh yeah, Dan Dare. And I like sat there and started reading a book, which is like the great danger of when you're unpacking boxes of books. You're like, I haven't seen this in ages, you know. And then, 2 hours pass and you're like, oh, I've gotten four books out of the box.
This
Um,
is one of the reasons that I've lived in this house for 12 years and I'm not totally unpacked yet.
Yep.
um, so I was reading Dan Dare and I was like, why hasn't anyone really done a, a kind of like ultimate or like absolute Dan Dare? There have been plenty of um, continuances of Dan Dare. I think Grant Morrison might have done one. Pete Milligan did one. Garth Ennis might have done one. But they were all kind of like, you know, I am going to use Dan Dare to reflect on Britain's colonial past, and Dan's going to be old and sad, and that's how it's going to be. And then there
Well,
was the 2000 AD reboot of Dan Dare, which was incredibly punk rock, like back in the 80s or early
right.
90s. That was just like, we're gonna turn this into something that's like, people who think Judge Dredd is cool will also think this is cool. Because there's a, there people like Dan Dare was very I don't know, it was like very pure in a way. Very much written as a post-World War II, like, the whole world ends up, as one unified, happy group. And sorry, Frank, didn't happen. Getting worse, going back,
Oh boy.
backsliding real fast.
Yep.
And most people in the show comic were white, and it's like it's really, really good sci-fi. It's really well done, but there is a bit of like a jolly hockey sticks, like chalks away, hurrah for Britain kind of thing to it. And
Mhm.
a lot of people like, a lot of writers now uh take that sort of like hopefulness and sentimentality and do and can't do anything with it. That's not how they write. I think a good parallel is what a lot of writers try to do with Superman. What if Superman was evil? What if everything Superman stood for like died, you know? And then you get lots of bad Max Landis style Superman stories. And then James Gunn comes along. It's like, what if we just make this lovely and fun again? And everyone goes, God damn, what I want is something lovely and fun. I really like that. Um, only superhero film my daughter's seen in ages. Like she's 15, and she loves Superman. Um, and we're sort of doing that with Dan Dare, and that like a lot of people rebooted it, and there was like, what if he's old and sad and like, was let down by the whole concept of colonialism, and what if you also sort of, but also there's stories like, what if you sort of have to know all the continuity of Dan Dare in order to enjoy the commentary on how Frank Hampson's view of the future was actually kind of shit, actually. And it's very, like good for you. You can make down endings. Congratulations. Where do you want your cookies? And we just decided to make something fun and action filled, that does wrestle with the colonial nature of some of Dan Dare, but not in a like, oh, what if we're sad about it way. We just like have better representation and like, make it less colonialist. Like you can just do that. And so, I actually just emailed the licensors and was like, hey, it's been a minute since you guys have done a new Dan Dare comic. Would you like to do a new Dan Dare comic? I would very much like to write one. And they were like, all right. And then I was talking to Mark Lamming, who's I've first worked with like 20 years ago on some Conan projects for Dark Horse, and we've been friends ever since. And he was like, I love Dan Dare. I, pretty much can do a PhD. Like Mark Lamming can give a TED talk on Frank Hampson, who's the Dan Dare creator. Like just if you just put a mic in front of him and be like, go, he will. And he's a wonderful artist. And he's great at like
He
speeches and
is.
stuff like
He
Mhm.
is.
that. Like
He's doing Endeavor with Stephanie Phillips right now.
yes, which
That's
is
just
finally finished drawing.
so
Um,
good.
and he's very happy to be doing, well, he's going from teenagers on one boat to like four characters in spaceships in space. So though he did get to draw some like future London vistas on the way over. And so yeah, we put a book together, B7 Comics, which is a small British outfit, who actually have a radio side too, and had done the Dan Dare audio adventures, and thus were known to the licensor, agreed to kind of manage it. And we're just getting it together. I've done the lettering for the first 5 pages. Mark should have 8 pages ready for launch. We had some like scheduling and like illness issues. We were originally going to launch on March 1st, and now we're pushing it back to the 9th, so we can have more art. I
More
just
art is
emailed Pi
great.
Par and Henry Flint for covers. Um, so yeah, I'm really excited about it. I mean, it was just, it is exactly like being the person to come into Superman and be like, what if we just make this fun? And so I came into Dan Dare and be like, what if we just do space opera really fun, space opera, space action, but it's fun, you know? scary and people have emotions. It's not like, like I'm still a character writer. But it's fun.
That's definitely something that I think in the especially I'm thinking mostly Reversal and Bad Karma are two books that have some heavy gut punches that
Yeah.
you still can laugh through and smile through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I feel like that balance is there, and that's what's important. Too many people just think of the like, oh, what's the most fucked up thing you could do for something? Excuse me, sorry, and then just don't know where to go from there. But I feel like that hope and optimism is vital, and even more
Yeah.
so, like as shit
Like
gets more
now,
fucked up.
yeah, we need it,
Yeah.
Um,
If you can't imagine a better future, you can't get there.
yes, exactly. Um, but
that
yeah, I mean, I think it was also just from growing up reading a lot of manga and watching a lot of anime, which tends to be really, really good at emotional arcs.
Mhm.
And like sometimes I feel like some Western comics writers don't even really have a understanding of what an emotional arc is. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
um, it's just like let's hammer the character, or let's be real about how depressing everything is. Like, no, I have that in real life. Thank you very much.
It's
Um,
what we're trying to avoid right now.
very much so.
yeah.
So is there Witch Hat Atelier, is there anything else that you're reading right now that's really, really jumping out to you?
Comics reading. I just picked up Tower Dungeon, the new Nihei
Same.
book.
Hmm.
I'm only on volume one.
Okay.
But I really liked it. Like, I mean, I just love him because like he's like he
Hmm.
leaves so much space in the book in a way. Like there's like he's like there feels like there's space in the story, but also
Yes.
it feels dramatic and interesting. And then you get back and he's got like random locust people who are the emissaries of the royal court. And I'm like,
Yep.
white locusts?
His choice of animal people is great.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Like
again,
his creature design and everything.
yeah, the sense of scale of like
Yeah.
how big this thing is. Yeah, this is the first
He's
Nihei
always
I've
been a
read.
master of scale, you
That's
know.
what I hear because he used to be an architect before
That makes a lot of
making manga.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, this is the first of his I've read, but that's I just read volume 4 this week as well. So
Okay. I'm going to
it's
get the
very
other
good.
three volumes that they're out now.
Hmm.
The other thing I read recently that I really loved was Linnea Sterta's A Garden of Spheres,
Ooh,
which
okay.
is magnificent. Like it's truly like they're like very much the modern sort of Mobius.
Okay.
Uh,
I'd heard of it, but yeah,
no, it
that's
is
definitely jumped
it's
up my
like this
attention.
thick.
I love
Um,
books. I love huge
It
books. Yeah.
is a completely immersive fantasy world with lovely, lovely pacing. Things happen, stories kind of like intertwine and stuff. And they've just been like kind of adding stories onto it. It's kind of slightly vibes based, but also like there's enough plot structure and crossing over and thought that's put into the world that you don't care that it's vibes based,
Hmm.
because things do happen.
Right, right.
Characters do reappear and like there are
Hmm.
consequences to things. And you're like, oh, well, that links into this person over here. And that's that guy, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
Nice.
and I would strongly recommend it. It comes out from a smaller studio that has a ton of interesting looking things called Piao Studio, Piao
Yeah.
PEOW dot
Hmm.
studio. And I actually hassled them online to be like, you are sending this in to the Eisners, right? Like you are like,
That's
yes,
great.
like
Yeah.
March 13th, like clickety click, come on, hurry up. And they're like, yes, it's on our calendar. Like, be cool. And I'm like, thank you.
I think I definitely went through their shop once and was thinking, oh, I'll pick a book, whatever is the most interesting. And then I think I ended up with like $200 in the cart and was like, all right, I can't narrow this down. This is now buying paralysis. So yeah, there's
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the Piao store is extremely dangerous like that.
Mhm.
Let's see. What else? I mean, that's it. Like I'm not uh
I mean, those are two top-notch recommendations. It sounds like so.
I'm not reading a ton of comics right now, so I'm sure there are great things I'm missing. I just like I don't know, I'm just kind of finding things as I find them.
Mhm.
I've gotten very detached from the world of comics per se. Like I have my friends who are making comics and I know what they're doing. And other than that, like all vibes. I just, like the, every so often I'm like, oh, corporate comics is still kind of a bonfire, isn't it? And then off I go. But it's
Yeah.
nice. Like I'm creating more slowly these days, so it's not going to be a yearly book. I'm not going to, I don't think I have a book out this year. Um, I have a full-time day job, which is good.
Hmm.
I enjoy it. They pay me really well. Um, it's good for me, like not going to have a GoFundMe for my, medical expenses someday, like 90% of other comics people, apparently.
Hmm.
Um, uh, so everything is happening more slowly and more deliberately. Like I wrote Dan Dare last year. Like it's an 80-page graphic novel and it's written
Hmm.
because I'm that weirdo who just writes the whole project. And in theory, there will be two more, it's a trilogy, two more books. I'm nearly finished a script for a book called King's Ransom, which is like Ocean's 11, but medieval.
Ooh,
Happens in
nice.
1216. History nerds might be able to guess what happens. But that Tom Fowler is going to work on it, but he's finishing up another project. So that's one that we're going to like get our shit together and it's going to be out in like 5 years,
Mm.
maybe.
Okay.
And once
That's
that's
something to look forward
done,
to.
yeah, like it's a like writing a really complicated heist with, like an 8-person heist crew where they all have to have arcs and like be very distinct people. Like it's a lot. So I
Yeah.
I get like a couple of hours at it every week, and that's about it. But that's also all, like kind of walking away from it and then walking back to it is what's we've got the actual main like I'm on chapter 7. It's gonna be I think we'll do it in 7 chapters. Maybe there'll be a little bit of an eighth. So it's like I've written a ton of it. It's just not finished yet, and I need to finish it. And then
Hmm.
I'm gonna do something really like fast and dumb because I'm tired of like this really intricate like medieval heist with all these characters. I still need to write my third book for Erica, the werewolf book.
Oh, ooh.
That would be
Ex
nice.
it's exciting. So, okay. So I guess if, there's Dracula motherfucker for a vampire and then a werewolf book, then what kind of monster is in Parasocial? Is that like a ghost, a possession story? Or I guess what is the trifecta between
I mean,
werewolves,
there isn't,
vampires, and what else?
it isn't really a Universal Monsters kind of thing.
Hmm.
There is no, I mean, the
I'm not
monster,
expecting a Black Lagoon monster.
yeah, no, the monster is social media, I suppose. The monster is
Mm.
like modern fandom,
Hmm.
as both a attracting and repelling force. You wonderful things happen through fandom, like people have made lifelong friends, like people have been quite literally kept alive by the bonds they've created in fandom. But also there's, like everything, there's a bell curve, and the bottom end of the bell curve is like yikes. uh
Hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
so that was the monster in Parasocial, really. That sounds really dumb. The monsters ourselves. That's a shitty answer. Fuck off.
But mo most specifically, Luke, Indiana, more than anyone else.
I mean, like, but that's the fun of Parasocial.
Hmm.
Is Luke the monster or is Lily the monster?
Yeah, that was what I was kind
Like,
of. Go
yeah,
ahead, sorry.
yeah. I mean, like, and I wrote the book so that you'd kind of go back and forth between like who you supported in a way. Because Luke's not a good person. Like he's a dirtbag.
Hmm.
And but does he deserve what happens to him? Don't know. Up to you, really. And that's but ultimately it's really sort of a story about him in the end, though, because of what this is. Uh, People listening at home might hear my cat. There's the cat.
Hey, hey,
Um,
we're a very cat-friendly podcast.
yes.
Yep.
Uh, it is Luke's story pretty much because of what happens, the twist at the end, what happens to Luke, and what that
Hmm.
says about both the entire story and about everything Luke has done up to that point,
Hmm.
in a way. Um, so I'm not going to say anything more about that because it's just too major a spoiler.
Right.
But there is a reason
And I
why.
think we might have spoiled it the last time you were on anyway.
Hmm.
So we don't
I
need to
don't.
do it again. I
I
can't
don't.
remember.
think so, because I definitely listened to that one, and I don't rem and I
Yeah.
remember being surprised by the end of the book. So, you
Okay.
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Then maybe it was just something that you or Erica said that made me look at the end a little bit more carefully and go, "Oh, okay."
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I can fully spoil it in email and some of my
Right.
thoughts around it, but I'm not going to necessarily do that for people who haven't seen it.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, there's sort of a half-written werewolf book for Erica called Intruder.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's an intriguing title.
It's based on a Claire Denis movie, which just not beating the pseudo-intellectual uh, uh, accusations here. Naming my books after Claire Denis. Um, it's a good film too.
And hence the not much more to say because it's still being written at this point. Um,
Right.
Yeah, it was one
yeah.
of those where I was kind of like, sometimes you just have to, like, you have an idea, and like what I often do is I have an idea and I write like 15 pages of like just brain bomb it, like here's how it opens, and then you got to figure out where it goes from there, and you just have a
Mhm.
vague idea, and then sometimes you put it aside for a while, and you're like, oh, this is actually who the main character is, and this is how it has to end, and so forth. So putting things aside, and then wandering around and letting them kind of live on the back burner for a year or so is kind of nice. And because I try to do a book a year, like I have the luxury of doing that. It is a luxury to be able to get space from the stuff you're creating. Um, a lot of writers don't get to have that because they're just on to the next project for financial reasons or monthly comics reasons, or or usually a wonderful combination of
All
both.
of the above.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm it's one of those if I'm someone who has identified as a writer but not really put anything out. And so it's
Non-practicing.
yeah, yeah. And so it's finding the right balance of time away is part
Yeah.
of the struggle. But at the same time, like, yeah, it's I can't imagine anyone just being an endless font at the keyboard who just from sun up to sundown just spits out
Yeah.
words over and
No.
over and over, and they're good.
Yeah. I mean, you only have really about 2 hours in you a day anyway.
Hmm.
And then if you're really hammering it out, you spend a lot of the next day rewriting some of the stuff you wrote the first day. And like
Hmm.
I find when I go slowly, I'm able to pretty much keep everything I've written. When I go quickly, I then have to go back and rewrite or remove things because there is a and everyone has their own style too. Like if there's,
Yeah.
if you are listening to this at home, gentle listener, and are like, wow, I have to write every day or else I never get anything done, or like, oh, this sounds completely alien to me. I wonder if I'm doing it wrong. You are not doing it wrong,
Oh.
as long as it works for you. That is
Hmm.
the correct way. And sometimes what's really fun about writing is sometimes it will change from book to book.
Hmm.
Some
That does
books will
sound
just come out in one go, really easy. And some books you'll get half of them done. You have to leave them for 10 years and then come back to them. Like it's no fun. Some books you have to stop in the middle and like completely redo your outline because it just went somewhere.
Or it
Mhm.
just
Some
changes
books
as
you
your
don't
life
need an outline at all. It's just
changes.
it's just
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
So
Yeah,
writing can be frustrating. You're always adjusting how you do things. Um, and heaven forbid your easy book is the first book, because then
yeah.
then you're like, oh, this is no
You're
problem.
you're like the child entertainer of writing at that point.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, that's too much. No,
Yeah.
I wrote like
They
a
call it
meta
the difficult second album for a reason.
yes, yes. But no, I wrote a like metaphor or not metaphorical, but a metafictional memoir. And as I finished it, I was like, I need to go live more, and then rewrite this. So yeah, it was kind of a happy acknowledgement of like, yeah, I'm just going to put this down and then come back because right now it doesn't really end.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's another really fun part of writing, which is where you uh realize all of your um patterns and obsessions and habits. Like hopefully you realize them. Like maybe like maybe you're just completely unself-aware about like, I don't know, like how self-aware is Chris Claremont about like the whole kink thing? I don't know, like,
I was oddly enough just thinking of that today, of the idea of like, look, if you've read the Dark Phoenix arc, you're into kink. It's whether you realize it or not, I'm sure it's there, you know.
yes,
That's
yes,
where it's born for so many people.
yes.
But yeah.
Um, So yeah, like there's a lot of like either you deny that like you keep coming back to certain story patterns or certain character archetypes, or you like dig into that and then it becomes this weird therapy thing where you're like, why do I keep writing this? Let me deliberately try to not write this person or this dynamic or this pattern. Um, and yeah, that's so there's this kind of there's this kind of metafictional like therapy process in all of writing at a certain point, or there's just willful ignorance.
Hmm, yeah. Or you turn into like a James Patterson-esque parasite that writes through other people at that point.
Yes, yes. Yeah, or you just be like, I am going to write the same book over and over.
Yeah. It's
It's
certainly.
worked for some people, like it really has. Like fortunes have been made.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to think about the people that I start recognizing those themes in, and who can dance with them to stay entertaining about it versus, yeah, the person who's like, oh, you're just circling a drain here,
Yeah,
you know.
the writer's barely disguised fetish.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. I was just like, okay, it's
Yeah,
yeah, if you need your subtext to become text, that's fine, but I don't need that for myself.
I know writers who use subtext. They're all cowards.
Yeah, yeah, that sort of thing. Oh,
Um, yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of that's, you know, I think that's sometimes why when you see writers like great writers go into the mainstream comics monthly machine and come out 5 years later as not great writers, that's a
mhm,
lot of what happens. Like they have um, a great point of view, and if they were allowed to create more slowly and with less dictates around them, they would actually like develop their writing and their point of view and either consciously lean into or consciously try to eliminate their patterns and ticks. Whereas I think, once you go into the mainstream machine, there's a lot of pressure to essentially just be nothing but patterns and ticks.
mhm.
And then 5 years later, your sales aren't very great, and then they don't know you anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and
It's
then and you have ingrained really bad writing habits and probably several traumatic experiences.
yeah. That's
Um,
certainly one of those things that I think about more and more the older I get, of
yeah,
that, like, what is the cost of, this environment,
yeah,
um
yeah,
creative output wise or not,
yeah. And I've never loved like superheroes are great, but I've never loved them enough that I've wanted to sacrifice a lot of self-worth and effort to, you know, service the brand
Right.
for $70 a page.
Yeah. Oh, it's the I imagine that there's someone who could misunderstand your situation of being someone with a full-time job who writes comics part-time, and it's like, what the who doesn't want to do it like that,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. I mean, like, I've been doing it for 20 years. It's not like I'm a dilettante, like, and I was
right,
doing it full time
exactly.
for a while. Like creative writing was my, and filmmaking was my full-time job.
Mhm.
It's just, yeah, like this is, I think as people get older, they get a lot more forgiving about how well, most people do. Some people stay pig ignorant, but that's them. Um, about how people do things, you know.
Mm.
Uh, and you also get more deliberate about being like, all right, well, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to publish as much. I'm probably never going to do a monthly book again. I'm all right with that. I like the way I'm publishing. I like the way I'm making things. And then, you know, it doesn't really matter what people say, I don't care. They can buy my books or not buy my books. If they think that I'm a dilettante and they don't want to buy my books, they're welcome to buy other books instead. Like, that's fine.
Well, it's I guess for me, it's seen it as like a shifting definition of success because I think that getting to that point where you can choose to publish more slowly and take more time on projects is a good thing, you know. If
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And part of it is because I do have, there are very few publishers who have good creator-owned contracts and good vibes.
hmm
Um, and I'm lucky enough to at this point still be able to publish through them. Um, and that's why I'm sort of able to do things slowly because I can just, we can take a long time to do a book and um, we know it will have a home. Um, I've got a book with Carlos Speed McNeil that I forgot about that book. We're working on that really
Oh,
slowly too. Um,
nice.
hmm, it's a middle, yep, there you go. Um, it's a middle grade like animal action adventure book called
Ooh.
Raccoon Crime Squad, um,
Oh, that sounds awesome.
That does sound fun, yeah.
which is, kind of Miyazaki if it happened in the Dirtbag South.
Oh, I really like it now.
Oh, that sounds delightful. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that also reminds me, I still need to go pick up two copies of Scrapper, one for me, one for my nephew.
Hey,
Yeah, because last time I asked, they didn't have it at the store, but we'll have to get that on order.
there you go.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
Scrapper was a lot of fun.
yeah, it
And
looks a lot of
Cleppy's a great
fun.
person to work with. Um, but yeah, like so I got, I have like scripts almost finished. Raccoon Crime Squad is done. Carla's done like 4 chapters of pencils. So she's just doing something else right now, and then we're gonna get back to it once life settles down a bit. Um, so yeah, just sitting here making books slowly. They'll eventually come out.
Well, and living a life. I mean, that
hmm
that is a recurring theme that I try to remind anybody who doesn't know otherwise is pay for your comics, pay for them a couple of times if you really like them, because then you get more comics because
Yeah.
writers, artists, they need things like roofs and food and health insurance.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, that is like the secret to a lot of comics is a partner with health insurance.
Yeah.
Um, everybody in comics makes less than you think they do.
Oh yeah.
All of them.
Hmm.
Many of them don't make enough money to live on. Many of them have other side hustles anyway. Um, uh, and yeah, many of them like are able to do what they do because a partner is also bringing in income,
Right.
and in the countries that require it, health insurance.
Right. Right. I mean, that's such a recurring theme among the people that we talk to is like they work as much as they can, but they got to find, for artists, it's a mixture of doing the illustration here. I know artists that get super excited when they get like a trading card gig because
Yeah,
they'll get paid
solid
as much
money.
as they get paid for like half a comic to do one
Yes,
trading card.
yes. Or cover gigs, or
Right, cover gigs.
storyboarding, or
Right. I mean,
like Chris
every
Weston did a
time,
ton of storyboarding, and that's why he's that he
yeah,
supported himself like that for years.
yeah. No, every time I get frustrated at the number of variant covers of this, that, or the other thing, I remind myself that that variant cover represented like half of
Someone's
the rent
rent.
for somebody
Yeah.
that month.
Yeah, unfortunately, it also probably meant the interior artist was like, drawing and inking for some absolute shite rate, like, $100 a
Right,
Yeah,
page or something.
yeah. There's
right,
definitely a line. There's a balance to it, but yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it is a good argument for to keep at least one variant cover,
Oh, yeah.
it's a treat.
right,
Rather
right.
see the interior artist be paid more and fewer
Yes,
variant
I would
covers.
very much,
same,
I
big
mean,
same.
particularly because I'm a math guy, so I get really driven up the wall when I do the numbers in my head, and I'm sitting there going, you could pay everybody relatively well and still make the book for about $30,000 per issue, and you're selling them for $5 a piece.
Hmm.
It shouldn't, I mean, particularly when you then factor in the trade paperback down the road, it shouldn't be that hard to spend $30,000 per issue and actually pay a living wage.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Um,
know?
a lot of the problem was that was the streaming boom, where
Mm.
companies like, essentially indies who were
Yeah,
IP farms, sprung up purely to sign on creator-owned projects. Spoiler, they weren't.
right.
Um,
Nope.
the phrase creator owned and what it actually means when you see the contract drives me crazy. Um,
Right.
there's a indie publisher who's kind of famous for bad contracts that announced a new creator owned line.
Mm,
So my friends are writing for it, and I saw the contract, and oh boy, it's bad.
mm.
Real bad. And this is a
We
company
we
that,
we need more.
will
We
launch,
need more
cancel
lawyers.
creator-owned lines, and then cancel them 2 years later. So it's like,
I have a
um,
hunch I know which one we're talking about.
yeah, it's the usual one. So
I
yeah, like,
just
it's, you know, companies grew up to basically take the work of writers and artists and sell them on to Hollywood, in a way that the writers and artists did not make much money off anything, because they usually had a
right,
related production company. So they sold, the comic book lost money because they didn't actually bother with any marketing. And they sold the script to they sold the IP to their related company for like 5 grand as an option. And then they went, oh, well, your comic's in the hole, so you don't actually get any option fee, because we're going to use that to like fill in the hole. And I'm talking about like this happens, and I can give you the name companies that did it. I'm not going to, because I'm not going to choose violence, but not that
I
hard to
think
dig and
I
find
think
out.
they've been talked about.
They have been talked about. It's
Some
well
light
known.
Googling will get you some answers here.
No, I
Yeah,
mean, even on our air, as much as we try to only speak good of things and just not talk about the
yeah,
bad, I think we've talked about a couple
yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
But then, like, if you'll also notice that none of these companies, like the creators, aren't spoken of ever after that. Like,
Mhm.
they're not on the project as producers, because the producing fees are what
Right,
make your money.
right,
The
Yeah.
option fee you can mess around with to make it be very small, especially if you, as the comic book company, have the control of the secondary rights. In some
Mm.
cases,
right,
they didn't even tell the authors that
right,
they'd sold the option. Um,
right,
and
I've heard about
so
that one too. Yeah.
and then ends up being more money flowing back to the comic book company. So they're essentially just filling their own pockets while claiming to have creator-owned books.
Mm.
And luckily, because of like last year was a disaster in filmmaking, and almost nothing, like there was basically a year-long moratorium on things being optioned. Very few people got optioned. So a lot of those companies, I mean, you'll notice some comic book companies, they're like kind of stopping publishing a little bit, and like, you ask
Mm.
yourself
I've
why.
I've seen
And
some pauses.
because,
Yeah.
yep. And the answer is because the VC money ran out, because the model that they had was that they would sell lots of options and make lots of films, and that didn't happen. And now the VC's like, buddy, I'm not giving you any more money. You're still in the red. I mean, that's a hypothesis, but it's a likely hypothesis. But
Sure.
No,
the income
Yeah.
that was supposed to come in from all the from Hollywood did not come in.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so a lot of the more cynical projects, and also a lot of younger creators who get picked up by these companies because they don't know how, they are willing to sign them because it's their first couple of contracts. And you all sign bad contracts your first couple of goes, because like you want to get published, and you can't get published by better companies until you're published by a shit company. It shouldn't be like that. Unfortunately, it is.
Yeah.
So it was, young, vulnerable creators, and cynics, and nobody made any money. And now those creators don't have those books because they're owned by semi-bankrupt or
right.
on
Yep.
their way to bankrupt
Right.
creator-owned publishers. Um,
Though I will say there has been some luck for a number of those creators in clawing back rights.
yes, yes.
So
If it's the
that's
company that
good.
recently paused, yes. I know they have clawed back rights. And I'm very pleased
I
with
was
that.
actually thinking about one of the early ones wound up having people claw back some rights
Yeah.
because I was talking to Jeremy Whitley
Yeah.
recently, and
Yeah. Yeah.
he's
Oh,
got
Action Lab.
his yeah.
Dang.
A lot of people managed to claw back some rights from Action Lab.
And that's
I know there's still stuff going on with Aftershock.
Yeah.
Um,
and it's one of those where I get my hackles up at the idea that people have to fight for the return of something that they created that the publisher did not, complete their side of the deal with, and then still not relinquish in any way. Like that drives me up a wall here.
I feel real
I have
bad
a
for the
buddy.
people that signed contracts with like AMC when it was briefly going to do comics.
Ooh, I forgot that was it. Oh, okay, yeah, no, I remember. I remember
Yeah.
that now. Yeah, that
Yeah.
did not last very long. That
No,
Yeah.
did not
like
last very
literally,
long.
like just, within 6 months, it was closed down and their rights were
Hmm.
with AMC, and that was it. Those books will never come out.
Damn. Yeah. I think Sienkiewicz was on one of those books.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
Yeah,
was
so
Kelly Sue and Sienkiewicz, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty sure. So yeah, that's a damn shame.
I mean
I
that,
can understand why they did it because
Sure.
like Bill ain't cheap.
Yeah,
right.
You know, and Bill deserves
Uh,
every cent of that money because his process
sure.
is slow
right.
and labor intensive and he's painting every
Right.
page.
Yeah,
Right.
But and so like you turn to someone like AMC to fund that.
right.
But unfortunately they took rights and you know.
But
Uh,
at least for that comic, I think it was a situation where they had actually lost the rights to it years ago. Part of their deal with AMC is AMC bought the rights from whatever company had it and resurrected the project. So and gave them a lump sum. So
So that's
they didn't
how
get
did they lose the
screwed
rights to that?
because they'd had some I haven't heard the entire story, but it sounded like they'd made a deal on that book with some other company that it was going to be like their first thing, and then it wound up not happening.
Kelly Sue
So
should know better than that.
well, but I think it was earlier in her career. I think it was one of those I think it was one of her learning moments that then it almost got made. This is something that I'd love to talk to Kelly Sue about, but we were too busy talking FML when she was on. So,
Mhm.
uh
David Lopez is so great. I've worked
uh
with him and he's a delight. I love his
yes.
work so
yeah.
much.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Actually I just talked to Victor Santos and
Hey, another person I love,
yeah, I
and
was about to
who
say.
knows David Lopez because they're both in
Yep.
Spain.
Yep.
Um,
Nice.
and I would let Victor's another
But
person I want to work with again. Like so
yeah.
like it's so frustrating because like Neil Edwards, who I did that long Rogue Trooper run with in 2000 AD this year. He was like, I'd love to like, and he's magnificent. He's like, I'd love to work with you again. Come up with an idea, and I'm like, sure. And then I've nothing, zero. I am like there's like the goal is open and I've got like 8 balls in front of me and I'm just like, what if I don't kick any of them?
Yeah, no,
Um,
the
yeah,
It sounds
2000
like you
it's
need
for
to.
2000 AD though. And like 2000 AD is
right.
a little bit of a problem because they take all the rights to the story. And if
Yeah,
it's
Right.
just something I'm having fun with, sure, but
Right.
I haven't had a kind of back pocket story I want to give someone else for a bit.
Well, you
Like and
said when
then
you're
give a
done.
company to keep.
Yeah, you said when you were done with this medieval caper, you wanted to do just a fast and dirty fun thing. So there you
I
go.
should do that. I should do that. Yeah. Because Neil's lovely and he's such a good artist. Um, and we could do something interesting.
Yeah, no, Victor actually, when I was picking my top three books of the year, the reason Reversal got pushed out was the third slot wound up going to Cantwell and Santos
mhm.
on for Kid
Yep.
Maroon.
Yep.
I was literally going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and when I saw Phil put you on his list, I'm like, okay.
There you go. Yeah. Doesn't have to be on both
Rather
lists.
than having one book twice between our
Let
six,
that makes more sense. Honestly, that's a good call. Um,
because between I like all of you.
mhm.
I haven't met Skylar, but I love her art.
They're lovely too.
But
Yeah.
but the three of you, Cantwell's a good friend of mine. Victor, I hadn't met yet, but really wanted to, and I'd heard only amazing things about. And the two books were just outstanding, and they
Yeah.
were already fighting for the three spot because Jesse Lonergan put out Drome and Meredith McLaren put out Meat Eaters, and
Yep. Yep.
those two were
They
both so
deserve
good
it.
that it's
Yep.
like I don't even know how to go 1-2 with these.
Yeah. Wait, you're gonna love Garden of Spheres. It's gonna blow your mind.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
literally have the page up. I haven't pulled the trigger on buying it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if I have by the end of the afternoon
Yeah.
because I was
Don't
looking
look at
at the
anything else.
arc.
Like just buy that. It ships from Chicago. It's like d-
Oh, tabbing it in like an
I had the
afternoon then.
tab open with 200 like $250.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, now
like
Phil was saying that. Okay,
yeah.
you have
I'm gonna
now
have to
convinced
zero
me.
in on just
I
Stardust
I
Fierce.
I I have gone to the cart. I'm away from everything else, proceeding to
Mhm.
check out.
there you go. Is there's like they sell too many
If
good
it
books. There's
if it
too many
ships from
cool stuff.
Chicago, I could get it super fast because
Mhm.
Yeah,
like I could be in Chicago in 45 minutes.
there you go. You might get it.
So,
You might get it on like Tuesday
Yeah.
yeah.
or Wednesday.
It's like a full-time short box comics fair because that happened to me once right before
I
their
mean
their
I mean
print
it's
went out.
yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
just too bad that they have to mail it to me because like I could save $7 and just go pick it up. I have Monday
There you
off.
go. There you
I
go.
know. But yeah.
But yes, it's done. I'll stop looking at the page now.
Fantastic.
You
So
convinced me.
this is a question I thought might have come up earlier, but didn't. Are there any thoughts, plans, hopes, dreams for a reversal sequel? Because you definitely teed it up at the end there for
Yeah,
some open plot
I mean,
twists.
that was in my question list too.
I would love to do a reversal sequel. I got no advance from Dark Horse on it, and
Mm,
Right.
then because of the layoffs that happened in Dark Horse last spring,
mhm,
there was a big interruption in their marketing, and the book got no marketing.
Right.
Like if someone wants to pay me to do a
mhm.
reversal sequel, I will do a reversal sequel in a hot second.
Right, right.
Um, but I labored on that book for 8 years. I wrote
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Skylar was drawing it in around other
Mhm,
things, and so Kelly drew it in around other things, and it truly was a labor of love. Like
mm.
I commissioned the cover from Corey and paid for
Oh,
it.
wow.
Right.
This is into like I literally just go out and make my books. And
I
I
mean, frankly, it's a brilliant YA book that
oh yeah.
should be in the library market. So if it's not already, somebody needs to get it to ALA this year.
Mhm,
Well, like I can't trust Dark Horse to do that.
Yeah.
They sort of went, oh, well, we don't really have any marketing during these weeks when we're sort of redoing things. And I've asked them to even just like retweet me, like reskeet a post about it, and they haven't done it.
Right.
So like
mm.
Right.
I think they're on to other things mentally. And unfortunately, it's a real shame it's not in the library market. It should have been sent to School Library Journal. It was not. They
Mhm.
never did it. I asked them, I'm like, so, like, what about the usual stuff? And they were like, we
I mean,
forgot.
because
Yeah.
like even now, I mean, the thing about, and this is one of the things that frustrates me that it seems like so many of the monthly comic companies just don't get is that like the bookstore and library market look at books so much differently than the comic shop market. It doesn't matter if
Oh,
it
yeah.
came out 2 years ago. If it's good and they didn't have it yet,
Yes,
you can still get major publicity, major,
yes, yes.
that there are articles in the New York Times every, I mean, not that the New York Times is what it once was, but they're New York Times articles, the 5 books we missed 3 years ago.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
There's
Um,
the Time War book that like took off like a decade after it came out or something like that.
yeah, I mean, it sold pretty well when it first came out. Like that was it was well known when it first came out. It just got a wild kind of social media kick. I mean, it deserves that book
Mm.
absolutely deserves it. Uh Amal and Charlie are lovely. Yeah, like I don't know what to say. Like I've really struggled to get Dark Horse to do any marketing, and they haven't. And
Mm.
like I don't know, I don't think their heart's really in graphic novels.
Yeah.
They've
Mm.
kind of pulled back from that market, and they used to be very, very good in graphic novels. They used to have all of Carla's books,
Yeah.
and they've just not like I sort of don't know what they're doing. I know they've had a lot of trouble after being bought by that games company. So
Oh,
Right.
right. I forgot that happened, honestly.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um
That seems like it'd lead to trouble. Uh, pretty much. No, because they have such a wide library, so that's a damn shame.
Yeah.
Then I'll just mentally hope for whenever they revert back to you, and then we'll get a new edition wherever
Hmm.
you are, and then ahead the sequel. That's it.
Well, I mean, and or what it does seem in the comics book industry is anybody who manages to keep their properties together and like not go under waxes and wanes. Oni was a mess for a while. Oni's
Hmm.
doing great right now, you know. Uh,
They still don't have a great creator-owned contract. It's not really creator-owned. That's the problem. Like they have a lot of good, like all these places have good people. This
Hmm.
isn't
right,
any sh shade on Oni. Like I can never sign the
right,
Oni contract because they take part of my rights, and I'm not
Hmm.
right,
going to
Hmm.
do that because I've seen too many of these companies flake out.
right.
I've lived
I,
Right.
through it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want my book to go down with them.
Yeah,
Um,
Right,
that would be soul crushing,
yeah.
right.
honestly. Yeah.
Right.
So,
And even for me, who's had a ton of books out, like, but imagine if it's your first book and like
hmm.
Oh
you
yeah,
finally found someone to publish it and it comes out, they don't do any
Hmm.
marketing, and then the company fucks up, and then like they have your book forever.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. Right. No, I mean, there's not nearly enough creator-owned period unless, I mean, I've heard that the image contract is the only one that's really creator-owned unless you're just publishing on your own.
Or,
Dark
I
Horse
mean,
will do a creator-owned contract. You just have to ask for it.
Yeah.
And
I
you
was
may
about
not,
to say that
yeah.
because they
I don't
just
like
they
I
just
don't know whether it's because I have the legacy contract and I know what their contracts used to be, and
mm,
I'm like, you give me a
right.
legacy contract. Like we're still working on the same contract, guys, right? Like you're
Right.
not going to change it on me.
Well,
Or
but
whether like I don't know whether a new creator going to Dark Horse would get the
mm,
contract that I can get. Because
yeah,
sometimes if
well,
you're old and mean, they give you better terms.
good
I
to know.
They
also
know
know
like
that they
you're going to see through their bullshit.
right. They did manage to bring Stan Sakai back and they did um bring Terry Moore reprints into the fold, and neither of those guys are guys that like,
They
and
don't sign bad
particularly with it.
contracts. Yeah.
Well, I
Terry
mean,
doesn't need to. Terry like is his own thing.
Terry's never. I mean, the fact that they're doing it at all, I imagine, means that A, Robin approved the contract, and B, Robin decided, oh wait, somebody else will pack up the books for a while.
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we can travel more.
Win. The other people who have good contracts now are Boom.
Yeah, I've heard
Because
Okay,
that.
that's good to hear.
Boom got. I'm sorry for this is inside baseball for everybody else, and I'm sorry for all.
Inside baseball's fun sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. So Boom used to have the worst contracts in the market, to the point where like an artist died trying to get work done for them. Yeah, like yeah,
Shit.
yeah, on a licensed book. Their license, I don't know. Yeah,
Wow.
so then they got bought by Penguin Random House,
Hmm.
and the PRH people were like, could brought the contract more into line with like Random House Graphic and like accepted
Right.
book
Okay.
contracts. I think you still have to ask for it. And like in anything, you have to be like, I ain't signing away my rights. Wasn't born yesterday. Thank you very much.
Which is where I'll toss out to the handful of lawyers that I know listen to this podcast. There's
Yeah.
total need for inexpensive lawyers for comic book creators who are willing to give like once overs of contracts relatively inexpensively or better yet free and say, yeah, no, you want this, this, and this, and this. You
Or
know
just
who
you
I'm
have a
talking
stock
about.
contract, from these companies and be like, like experience says you're not going to change this contract as a young creator. So you have to like, but here are the things that you can possibly redline.
Right.
There are some companies that will simply not change their contract for you. And there are others where there is wiggle room, like, Boom, you can push them and you can keep your rights now, which is amazing, and which is why a lot of older like experienced creators wouldn't touch Boom previously, and the new class of editors, like literally all of them, the first thing they said to Boom when they were being interviewed was like, you have a massive problem with creator relations, and you need to fix your contract. And the new publisher, who's from PRH, was like, okay, I will do that.
Well, and
That's great news. I was
that's
worried Boom was one of the publishers you were talking about in the bad advances. So it's good to know that that's not happening anymore if it ever did. Um,
Yeah,
or at least
Boom,
hopefully.
had some
Boom's had
years
some,
where
yeah,
they
Yeah.
did some bad stuff.
yeah.
and
Yeah.
they treated people really appallingly. And the page rates were like they were they were paying tiny page rates on licensed books and pushing artists on unrealistic schedules. And it was, I mean, I don't know too much about that world because I just don't generally do licensed books.
Right.
If I'm gonna, learn all the continuity to write someone else's story, I might as well just build my own world.
Mhm.
Um,
Except for Dan Dare.
I was just
Except for
thinking,
Dan Dare, except for Dan Dare.
that's
Like if I
that's
like
what
it, I
makes
like it. Like, except for
yeah.
Yeah.
Rogue Trooper when I did a giant Rogue Trooper piece. Like if I like it
Karna.
and the project has good vibes and the nice people are nice, I'll do it. But like,
Right.
people occasionally call me up about doing work for hire, and I'm like, yeah, no.
Well, and it should also, we should remind listeners that with Dan Dare, you called them, which is
Yes,
not actually the way it works is
not at
often
all,
with the
not at all.
whole.
I
You
called
need
them, I wrote the story, I got their approval on the story first, and they were actually very sweet and laid back. Like, I mean, I tried to put an eye patch on a character, and they're like, that makes him look like a bad guy, and I'm like, anime.
right. Eye patches are cool.
Yeah, like this makes this character way cooler. And he canonically had a crash. Like he canonically was a pilot who had a crash and is now
Oh,
like a commanding officer because he can't fly anymore because he's disabled. Like he's
Right.
essentially
yeah.
they really soft pedaled it with Frank Hampson, but like, the character was canonically unable to fly anymore.
Right, right.
Um, and so I was like, what if he actually had a smash up? Like, what if he looks like he had a smash like it? And I wanted the eye patch, and they didn't let me have the eye patch because the licensor is not like in touch with the kind of like
Hmm.
20 something Tumblr vibe. And that's fine. Like he should not. He knows many things. He's
Right.
a really nice guy. I would be shocked and horrified to see him on Tumblr. He would also,
I,
in short, he would also be shocked and terrified.
I was once at a panel where both of the panelists had done licensed books, and one of them had the story where it was like, well, they gave me this whole sheet of notes, but my editor said, think of them as suggestions and we'll see what happens. So I did, and I never got anything again, and that's how we got the thing. And the other one was like, I went through 12 drafts of every book to get point where they would accept it.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever again. I'm glad I did it once.
Yeah, see, with Rogue Trooper, I outlined like my first, like I pitched three different stories. I pitched one, Tharg was like, no, and clarified what he wanted. I pitched the other one, he's like, yeah, like, no, this is more like, it should be like this. And then I pitched the third one, and Tharg was like, finally, you understand. I'm like, sorry. Um, and then once I had a kind of once I had a pretty vague outline of it, they were fine. There wasn't any. I think they asked me to change the character name, and that was it. Or if they did a
All
bunch
right.
of edits, like that it was after I turned the script in, and like I didn't notice them in the final book. Um, so that's the sort of thing I like. Like they need to kind of trust me to do the thing.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to get an outline approved, but then I don't want to be sitting there like dealing with, you know,
Yeah.
if I have to do more than four drafts, they're paying me hazard pay.
That
Yeah.
that makes sense to me. Um, you're running out of time, so let me ask the final two mandatory questions.
Mhm.
I'm in the fifth year of this podcast, and I pinch myself like regularly because my life feels like it's in the twilight zone now, just because I get to have all sorts of weird experiences just because I'm part of comics. My new most surreal experience is a couple of weeks ago. We went from having two cars to having no cars in the span of a couple of days. And because of a comics connection, we had two cars again on Saturday, um, just inside of what we could afford.
That's great. That's
So,
great.
so that's my. I mean, that even beats out going to a baseball game with Dennis Kitchen in terms of my surreal comics experiences. And
Yeah.
sitting at a
Yeah.
baseball game with Dennis Kitchen was pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But I find that everybody in comics has crazy stories that they just like. They sit there and go, I got to do that. And I never would have gotten to do that except that I'm part of this medium, part of this community. So I started to ask for those stories. Give me just one surreal experience that, like,
Oh Lord. I mean, just whew. I mean, some of it's just like, is just being able to work with wonderful people like that I never thought
yeah,
I'd be able to work with. Like, like working with Bill Sienkiewicz and Jerry
yeah,
Ordway. Bill Sienkiewicz on a Kickstarter book uh,
right.
that I had lettered with collage lettering and he absolutely loved. Um, that's really sort of it, like just kind of crazy things like, I was asked to pitch a continuation of Rank Xerox when Heavy Metal thought it had the rights and they didn't, it turned out. But that was during like one of Heavy Metal's like the really shady periods. Um, that was a shame. I would have loved to do that. Golly. Uh, Ended up being friends with Chris Weston very early in my career because he dropped his credit card. Um, and when I was at a convention and I found it and was like, you might need this. Um, Signed
That's
Chris
pretty
Weston,
cool.
I signed Chris Weston original. I can put it on eBay, but figured you want it back. Um, um, oh gosh, what else? I know there's weird stuff.
I'm,
I know
I
we're
mean
gonna finish up and
that's
I'm just gonna
pretty
be like,
good, and I'm hoping you'll come back. You can give me a different one next time.
okay.
Because we do need, though Phil cheated a little bit on this
Huh.
and asked you about stuff earlier. Tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but we don't have rules. Preferably storytelling, but again with the rules, but something that you love that not enough people around you have experienced and you want them to, so that you have more people to talk about it with.
I mean, I've mentioned it already, but Witch Hat Atelier,
Yeah.
which again, anime is coming out soon, so like a good time to read the book. The art is heartbreakingly good. It's a wonderful metaphor for creativity. Also, it's an amazing thing to get kids. It is the magic school book, the magic school story that you should be excited about this year. The other one can get in the sea.
Mhm.
Um, and it's truly gorgeous world building. There's an amazing canonical disabled character with like a really cool adaptive device that doesn't like minimize or put to the side his disability. Um, the
Now
whole
I really need to read
backstory.
it. I'm a special ed teacher, so like
Yeah. Like the
that's
character
something
is
that I'm
so
always
cool.
looking
Like
for.
one of the coolest characters in the book in a chair.
Uh,
Um,
Awesome.
uh, what else have I really loved recently? I mean, I'm reading lots of medieval stuff for um
for research.
for research. So like medieval history and things like that.
Mm.
So a lot of uh, like Maurice Keane's chivalry, which is amazing. And which tracks like the Crusades, the changing attitudes of Christianity towards warfare up to the moment of Pope Urban II, you know, declaring the crusade and saying that, like, not only is it okay to kill people, like, you will, like, just by going on this mission to kill people, you will be cleansed of all sin.
Wow.
Um, and like in 2 pages, he goes through and goes like, well, if you think about it, like, the first real nail in the coffin of Christianity as a religion of peace was the conversion of Emperor Constantine, because as soon as a monotheistic religion becomes a state religion, it then has to support state policy
Mhm.
and states go to war.
Yeah.
So you kind of like there will always be an erosion of the of the religion's attitude towards killing when it becomes a state religion. And I think like for polytheistic religions, you could keep like the good gods who didn't like killing, and then you could have your war god. But like when you've only got one god, you
Mhm.
got problems. And then I think it was Pepin who was crowned king of the Franks in the 750, like middle of 8th century. Could be like it's a bit fuzzy. Medievalists don't at me. And he was the first king crowned in a cathedral as part of a religious service. So,
Hmm.
there was still some separation of church and state. Like, it was like the Rome was Christianized, but then
Mhm.
like the real ties started happening in Western Europe around the middle of the 8th century. And then uh, in the 8th and 9th centuries, you had Christian Western Europe being pressured on all sides from Vikings. You had the Vikings coming down into Normandy. You had the Arab nations coming out through Spain. You had various Slavic nations pushing, and I don't think it was the Turks at that time, pushing west. And so, Rome was sacked again. Um, and actually, no, sorry. The original Rome sacking was uh, the reason for Augustine's just war theory, because what a lot of people don't realize when they're reading Augustine suddenly going on about just war, again, happened after Rome was Christian. Rome got sacked. Everyone very nervous for a while and very unhappy that this happened. Augustine's like, sometimes war can be just. And everyone's like, oh, good. And that was, I want to say 450 around there. I'm bad at exact times. So yeah, so Augustine just war after a sacking of Rome, like directly in response to that. Um, Pepin crowned a cathedral set in the middle of the 8th century. Generally, everybody very nervous in Christian part of Western Europe in the 8th and 9th centuries due to pressures from other nations, non-Christian nations coming in. So gradually, like the attitude towards war and killing got eroded, but it really like the total, you know, uh, nail in the coffin was the calling of the First Crusade. And because before then, like 100 years before then, if you killed somebody, you had to spend like 30 days in just like contemplation, and like there was very there are very strict rules around that uh for Christianity. And then you started to see like like we're going to bless the sword, and that was what came out of um of Pepin being crowned in a cathedral, is suddenly you were starting to bless the sword that the king was put on. And then it's a very short step to blessing the swords of the knights. And then like, what are swords used for? Like you are blessing an instrument of killing. And then so like erode, and then you get the Crusades, and which were all a terrible idea. Only one of them actually conquered anything. The other nine, if we include some side quests, did fuck all and just resulted in people going east and getting killed. And then that's also why the worst people are like, hey, Crusades, we need to crusade. Like, oh,
Oh,
so we need to mean to go to Israel,
yeah,
but instead go to Egypt and get killed? Good, good,
yeah,
good. Or are we just gonna go steal shit from Constantinople again?
I mean,
pretty
all of that
much.
makes sense to me.
Sorry, random TED
Yeah,
talk on like,
I love it.
that's
This
early
perfect.
is one of
No,
one
no,
of the
that's
reasons I
Christian,
love having you on, Alex, is
attitude.
like
None of that is
you
in my book.
you are one of the few people in the world that I'm in the room with and know that I'm not the smartest person in the room. And I love it. Because I just have to like
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
even finding the right words. I have
I
to
was.
focus and listen to everything, and I learn and have a reading list
Yeah,
when I'm done with every conversation we ever have.
But yeah,
struggling.
Maurice
Um,
King's Chivalry, it is like, it is an older book. There's a wonderful folio edition version of it that I've got for Christmas. Um, I ordered it myself and then gave it to my daughter. I was like, hey, wrap this. Um,
That's funny.
my son
and
won't even take suggestions from me for Christmas presents.
it's a struggle. Um, we also have just normalized like just tell me what you want, kind of
Yeah,
things. And I get some surprises, but we have pretty open
yeah,
communication about it.
yeah.
It just saves so much effort. So yeah, Maurice Keene's Chivalry. I think everyone knows about Kelly Link's Book of Love because it was like a giant book like a couple of years ago, but it's really great. And for prose book, fiction, kind of a urban. I'm not even gonna say anything about it. Like if if you're listening to this and you like very good, very unexpected books, buy Kelly Link's Book of Love. And I'm not. It's not. It's sounds like a romance. It's sort of not, it's absolutely not. And I want you to not read any reviews or any synopsis or anything. I just want you to buy the book and start it. And
Sold.
you will fly through it. It has also has really short chapters from different points of views, and like it just goes the wildest places, and it goes there like well and with conviction, and yeah, it's such a fun book. The other book I read was much quieter afterwards, and I'm like, oh, this is a book about gaming. I don't really want to read this. It was so good, I just kept reading it, which is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which I need to look up the author. But
I
those are
should
the
know that
last.
one.
Is this in this quiet little? I just wanted to say, you, Alex, you are also the guest that has gotten the strongest reaction out of my wife when I told her that we're doing an interview because I said,
Oh,
"Hey,
cool.
so today we're, talking to one of the writers of Scavenger's Reign," and she just kept drawing for a second and then was like, "Wait, what?" and turned and spat towards me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
Well,
yes.
and
but thank you.
my wife
I was a
also reads
creative
all of your
consultant.
cup.
I didn't write
Oh,
full episodes, but like
okay,
I am responsible for what plot the thing had. Uh,
excellent. It was yeah. It's really funny because I actually felt like I could once I heard that you had been involved with it. It was the I'm forgetting her name, but the mean scavengers towards the end, the leader of them, I felt like had some of your voice to her.
yeah.
So yeah, it was very very cool.
Okay, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow is by Gabriel Zevin. Um, Also, if you're a listener who's Jewish and if you are really into Jewish main characters, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, both the main characters are Jewish, and it's just a really good book. The author is obviously Jewish. She's writing about people in the games industry, and it's a really wonderful story about like flawed people and friendships evolving. And it's ultimately very, very hopeful and has a happy ending. Although you sweat a bit to get there. Um, it's kind of like the book about gaming that if you like Ready Player One is at one end in terms of
Right.
just being kind of like, look, I know about things and I'm going to put them in a book to, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is like a really deep meditation on the process of creating games by someone who clearly loves games. And I want to play the games that she talks about in the book. And so that's a lot of fun.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah, I would absolutely that. Yeah, stories about gaming, whether people playing games or creating. Yeah, that's totally up my alley. That sounds great.
Okay. Yeah, I think you'd like it. It's a little slower book. Like I went from Book of Love to this, and I was like,
Mm.
because this is like more meditational and like slower and more character driven, and Book
Mhm.
of Love is like you read the first 8 pages and you're like, oh shit, I'm going downhill and I don't have any breaks, which I respect. Like as a
Yeah,
writer who can just come in and just like she just keeps like flipping tables, like just walks along, flips a table, walks along, whether flips another table.
Well, that is exactly the type of book that I'm looking for, and I need a new car book for this week because I just wrapped up one. So I will let you know like next week what I think.
Yep. Good.
Alex, such a pleasure. Always wonderful. I can't wait to see your Dan Dare. Um, and hopefully
Thank you
we'll
for
talk
having me.
again one of these days soon.
Okay.
Um, for 22 panels, this has been Alex de Campi, and we will see you after the next page.